Doomsday Clock issue 9. We ended the last issue. We had the whole thing in Russia. We had Firestorm. It looked like he was blowing up, but obviously Batman yells out, "It's not Firestorm." We think it's Manhattan. Although this issue kind of maybe sets forth the idea that it maybe wasn't him either. That there was maybe something else there. There's something else at play. There's a third party. But this issue largely boils down to one major thing happening. There's a small side thing with Lois and Lex, but largely everything revolves around the idea that most of the heroes on Earth are on their way to Mars because they've traced the source of the energy and they think the cause of the explosion is someone on Mars. Which, of course, when Alfred's telling Bruce this, because Bruce was close to the explosion, so he wakes up injured. Superman's in a coma because he was at the epicenter, and Diana's still on Earth. But I think it's really notable at the end of this issue, we're left with those three, because every other hero pretty much has been taken out of the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting we're left
Trinity.
with the Trinity, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going through all the pages of those,
Did you want a badge?
of all the different teams.
The roll call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about the roll call first of all. Yes.
Wait. Before we get to roll call,
Talk about the
is
first
this a
page.
crisis?
What was that called?
Does this count as a crisis now? We had a big crisis word. Can we
No,
count this?
I think Johns is playing with DC vocabulary.
I mean, probably, but it's a better crisis than the one that's happening right now.
Oh, the shade. Alright, so we'll just go page to page, right? So we start off, Manhattan's talking about, it's reminiscent of when he was talking about moving the lantern, he even mentions that again, but he's talking about how he's in the future, and he's grabbed the ring, the Legion ring, that came from the explosion, Who is it, I don't know that much about the Legion, who sacrificed himself?
It's Pharaoh Lad. So in the future, he sacrifices himself to help reignite the sun.
Right.
So it's one of the noble deaths. It's one that is stuck, because even if you do all the Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff, and how John's reinstituted the original Legion, Pharaoh Lad still sacrificed himself.
And as you know,
that's like,
all the noble deaths are on the rightmost side of the heroic table.
wait, what?
That was a quality science joke. Noble gases are all on the right side of the periodic table. That was a quality joke.
Geez.
I'm proud of that
It was a
one.
bit convoluted, but I mean,
Yeah. You could have worked Krypton in there too. Like,
Well, Kryptonite's
That's
not a
there
noble
too.
gas, though. Kryptonite's on the...
Krypton is, though.
Krypton is. That
what
was one of the
said,
newer
Krypton.
ones at the bottom, wasn't it, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so...
Anyways, so this makes me think too, because you remember John's right after Infinite Crisis did the Booster Gold series, and not Infinite Crisis 52, and his whole idea of time travel was there are set points in time that are concrete. They're always meant to happen. You really can't change them.
I will say then this page has suddenly got a lot deeper for me, because obviously I wasn't familiar with this bit of history either. You said, even through crises, this is one of those events that cannot be changed.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
Feral
moving
Boy,
the
you said, right?
lantern.
Feral Boy?
Pharaoh Lad.
Feral Lad, sorry, yeah.
Pharaoh, like iron.
Right, okay.
That's what he could do.
Alright, okay.
He's kind of like the Legion's Colossus. He can transform himself into this unbreakable iron.
But the idea that, so Manhattan stopped that happening.
Yeah, and
that didn't stick in this timeline.
What's interesting to me, though, is he didn't do anything to change that in the future. It just goes all back to the lantern moving, because he goes back in time, he moves the lantern, and then the ring disappears.
The ultimate butterfly effect.
So it's exactly because it's the first. So if Alan Scott represents the Justice Society, which is the first superhero team, and if Legion is the last, let's say, because they're in the future, then that ripple effect means by Alan Scott never becoming the Green Lantern, then the Legion of Superhero never forms.
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, it's a knock-on effect, yeah. It's just like, he never inspires the heroes of the present day, which never inspires the heroes of the future.
Right.
Simple.
So it's just nothing after this. So after he moves the lantern, that's what causes the nothingness.
Yeah, now time is ending, or at least as far as he can tell, time is ending when he meets Superman. We're counting down to that.
And he can't really check on other things because since he's done this, since the explosion,
I can't believe it's still the first page.
Yeah.
He points out that since the Firestorm explosion, there's like this tachyon like haze around Earth.
Yeah.
And that might be interfering with it too, which tells me that this isn't Ozymandias is doing. Like he is this is his plan from the start, and I don't know why. Like, we find out stuff later on in the issue, but I'm still trying to piece together how this all fits.
Is this the first time that Manhattan's actually changed something from his perspective? Because to him, the way he sees time, everything, it always happens the way he says it's going to happen. But here,
now
he had a ring,
can't.
and then there is no ring. There never was a ring. It literally changed for him.
Because he's outside. The way I look at him, he is outside of the time stream. Yeah, because he exists everywhere at once. He's omnipotent, right?
Yeah, but everything that's happened since Flashpoint, right? We're in a world where the Lantern was always moved. So I think when he actually moved it in his perspective is almost irrelevant because we've just been in that timeline the entire time since the start.
Right, for him, it's one timeline.
And when it is irrelevant. I'm just saying, because to him, whenever he quote unquote changes something by what it seems to be to us that he changes something, to him it's never changes something. This is just how it always is, how it always will be, how it always was, right? Because he's seen it all at once.
Well, maybe
this here is a definitive change to his perspective.
Maybe this goes back to what Matt was saying about these rock hard moments in time where the things always happen. Because he changed one of those, it had a different effect in time, which even for him, it affected his perception of things.
Yeah, because it means he's not entirely outside of time if it can affect his perception like this. Otherwise, he would always have seen a timeline where there was no ring.
Right.
What
I mean outside of time is that he's an observer. You know what I mean? He can come in. He's like the scientist that I forget which principle it is, but you can't not affect something. Even by looking at something and observing it, it changes it. And so that's what's going on with him, I feel.
Do you know what I like about this? I like the idea that, because he got to a point at the end of Watchmen where it felt like, nothing can touch him. He is the most powerful being ever. He can alter time. He can see time. Yeah. What I like about this is that we're at a point where there's something to him that he still doesn't understand. And I don't want to say it unnerves him, because I don't know if Manhattan really has the feelings in a way where he can be unnerved. But he is certainly confused, because when he says, "Oh, the ring's no more," I think he's questioning it. Like, why is there no more ring? This is different to everything else and to the way I've perceived time up until now.
Given the facial expressions, I would agree.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. And then later on, because later on, he during one of the conversations he says, "Oh, it's still nice to learn things." So it implies that almost up until now, it's been a while since he has learned anything, because he has just been kind of observing everything at once for so long.
Yeah.
So did we just spend about 10 minutes getting to the end of the first page?
Yeah, so page 2. Page 2. So we have 3 pages of roll call. This is people in the ships, the heroes going towards Mars. Some delightful little things to point out in here.
Shall we go through all the crews? Because they're quite interesting lineups.
Yeah, so the first one, you got the 2 Hawks, you got Barda, and you got Mr. Miracle. Oh, and you got the Atom as well. I just spotted the Atom. I didn't see him the first time I read this. I just spotted him on the shoulder right there.
Yeah.
Which without Adam being there, I feel like these are the always meant to be characters, right? There's like Barda and Scott are always together, and then the Hawks are always destined. Because this whole destiny thing.
The Hawks are kind of predate the JSA in a way, because they've been reincarnating for however long.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation to make. Second group, we have 3 Lanterns. We got John, Hal, and Jessica. We got Donna Troy.
There's 4.
Yeah, guys there, set the back, slumped on a chair.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I just saw his feet. Yeah, he's kind of hidden a little bit.
How dare you miss Guy?
I have anti-Guy Gardner material in this very issue of Doomsday Clock.
I don't think you do.
Yes, I do.
So this team, you have John and Hal and Donna Troy, Cyborg, Jess.
Who, by the way, Donna's in red. Donna's in a red outfit.
Yeah.
Which has been different from usual.
And is that Starfire there popping in the side?
That's Starfire. Yeah.
Thought so.
And then
I'm
next page.
I'll be honest, I'm not taking shit for not noticing her there, because that's very.
Oh, come on!
Like,
you didn't recognize Starfire again.
I didn't even recognize there was a person standing there. Never mind who it was.
So the next page is
next panel. We're still on the same page.
Yeah, it's still the same page.
Yeah, well, next panel is I'm trying to put this like. These are if Barry wasn't there, this is like the next generation kind of Justice League guys.
Yeah, you
know,
got
like
Jean, you got Aquaman, you get Mira, you got Flash, you got Green Arrow and Black
Firebird.
Canary and Firebird. Yeah. So that's that panel, and then the next one you got Supergirl, Steel, two of the Metal Men, and there was some debates about who this guy in the back was, and there were some interesting observations on the Twitters about this.
Yeah.
Seemingly, this might be the kid from Dial H from Hero, and one of the things he becomes.
Which I want to remind everyone here too is this is still meant to be happening a year into the future.
Yeah.
They reference Sanctuary. There's talk about hope and stuff in here, so it makes me think of Heroes in Crisis and if it's gonna quote matter. I think it will matter, but the events of it, I feel that last issue was talking about how they're messing with Johns and like nothing matters because Wally and whatnot. I don't think that's true, and I think this proves it.
Do you know what I think?
Because there's
still
talk about hope.
Do you know what I think's been interesting about this? Is I think we'll get there later, but this might be the first issue of this book where someone's mentioned Wally West, which, if you think about how Wally West was important to the start of Rebirth, it's actually kind of weird that Doomsday Clock has not mentioned him up until now. Yeah. It's been this long. And it felt like a big deal. When Lex Luthor says that name later, I'm like, oh, wait.
I don't know if I agree with it, because this issue, it's not been mentioning a lot of DC here. There's been specific ones where, that feels like a deeper cut, but it's actually been very focused in on what it's been doing. It hasn't been just throwing names all over.
Yeah, but Wally has an important tie to what's going on. Like, he was the start of all this. To us as the readers, that is. He's got an important meaning to us.
Because don't forget that Johns also worked on the button, and that was pretty indicative of, like, there were hints there with Saturn Girl, with the Time Stream, with Fawn saying that he saw God, and it was a blue light.
Yeah.
So, John's helped on that too. So there's a thread there. But yeah, so the Metal Men, that's I think 10 and Platinum, which is I think that's interesting just because without the human starfish there, that's the metal team. Because you have the Girl of Steel and Steel there with the Metal Men.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking it's like the Superman-esque characters plus some others. But I mean, that's a fair way of looking at it. Yeah. And then you get the magic characters. You get Zatanna with Constantine, Swamp Thing, Deadman. Who are these ass cheeks that I'm looking at?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure on those ones.
Yeah, there's ass cheeks.
Definitely Deadman's behind them.
Yeah.
And we know now too that Swamp Thing isn't going too far unless this is a new one. Because we heard about him wanting retirement in Dark. So.
And then the bottom panel of this page is the Doom Patrol. Do you know what I like about this, actually, is that I think when Doomsday Clock started, I couldn't have named you most of these characters, and now, because I've read some of Grant Morrison's run, because of the TV show, I can name you everyone in that panel except the dude at the back, I think.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Who's the dude in the back?
Yeah, I don't know who the dude at the back is.
No shirt status. So who's the girl in black?
That's Crazy Jane.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I take it the girl in the is what's her name? Beast Boys?
Yeah.
Surrogate mom? What's her name?
Rita.
Yeah.
Rita, yeah.
You got Niles, you got Negative Man / woman. I don't know. I never read the Young Animal. I don't know what version of this character we have here.
Young Animal's out of continuity, I think.
Is it?
So this would be the Johnsian version that he kind of brought back.
Did it not have the crossover though with the Milk Wars? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so, but those weren't really. Yeah.
I'm willing to bet this is the Young Animal version just because they're the most recognizable right now to people.
Then you got Robot Man just kind of peeking in there with his hand. Then you get the back characters on the next page.
I would be as far as to say this is the Outsiders team.
Yeah, you got Katana there. Yeah, I could see Black Lightning's there.
Lightning's
that looks like a proper Dick Grayson Nightwing, first and foremost. So,
which I feel that's John's flexing, going, guys,
also,
whatever you're doing with Rick,
he's
done in a year.
Yeah. Also, Babs is in the black and yellow outfit. I'm digging this. Yep. I hope this is actually indicative of where we're going with her outfit.
Which I feel, too, that's John's flexing, going, this is classic.
Yeah.
So we got Red Hood and we got Batwoman. Who's that behind Batgirl's arm?
I don't know.
You've got her, and then there's a sort of pale-looking dude behind Black Lightning that I can't quite place either.
Yeah, I'm thinking Outsiders. The girl could be Halo.
Yeah. Because I'm not seeing some of the other like notable ones like. Because that guy does not look like Geoforce. Does not, and the woman doesn't look like Grace.
Did you guys miss me guys saying Metamorpho?
Is that Metamorpho?
I suppose it could
Metamorpho
be.
is a classic outsider.
Actually, you know what, Matt? I thought he had hair. Now that I'm looking at it closely, it looks like there's just light shining on his head. I thought that was hair though, which is why I never thought of Metamorpho.
Gotcha.
I can see what you mean. That the red looks like a bit of hair, doesn't it?
I thought he had hair. I thought it was a pale dude with hair, which is why I never even thought Metamorpho. So that's
question though on the next panel is who's the dude in the foreground that looks like Merc? That's clearly not Merc because he has two hands.
Let's have a look.
It's a good question. Obviously, everyone else in this panel is the Shazam family plus Stargirl.
Right.
Just for anyone.
Which we all know how Johns feels about these characters. So
yeah, this is basically your GSA panel because the rest of the GSA aren't around to be in it.
Yeah, I've seen people speculate in Magog, but because we can't really see the horns on the helmet.
Yeah, if that would make it a GSA because that was his team that he popped up on. And then probably out of all the lineups, this one I feel is a fist bump.
Yeah, the last one. You got Blue Beetle, you got Question, you got Nightshade, you got Captain Atom, which are notable because these are the characters that inspired the Watchmen character.
Yep. These are the Charlton versions, and I saw that. So this was the first thing I read Wednesday morning, and I got to that page and had to be quiet because I'm the only one up that early.
Yeah.
So I was like, quiet.
Yeah, super notable. So yeah, we got Manhattan on Mars, and he's doing his whole thing. He's talking about how looking at time on Earth right now is like looking through a kaleidoscope because the tachyons, the tachyon fog. Yes, comic books, guys. And we see some of the aftermath of the explosion from last issue. We see like Green Lantern and Hawkman show up to like pick up Superman and try and like suss what's going on. We see there's like anti-Superman protests happening now. They're seeing him as someone who works with the enemy, that kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff on the news, back and forth. We see Lois like arrive at his body and like be in tears, and at the Hall of Justice.
That page was moving because you're not used to seeing Superman laid up like that.
Yeah, is that our new Rorschach there holding the you see what you want to see sign
on the page after?
Yeah.
So what's also notable here is that at the Hall of Justice, I think when Doomsday Clock started, the Hall of Justice wasn't back yet, right? Like this is something.
No, that only happened over this last summer, right?
So I think it's interesting that they're making it very clear to incorporate more things that have happened since. In the
Do you know what I will say is, all those sequence of panels with all the roll calls we just started going over? I can't help but wonder if that's part of what took so long is editorial changes going, nope, we can't show that, or no, it's going to be in a different costume by that point.
Yeah, I could see that.
And having to redo things.
I could see that. We have some very clear dialogue that's implied that it's meant to be Trump, although we don't see him.
I think more than implied is fair to say.
Yeah, if you had any doubts, you get to the last page where it comes out as a tweet, and you just the way that the tweet.
I've done more for the world anyway, and will continue to.
Because obviously you don't hear. It's this where he says, "It's a huge thing. What you're asking, huge." I'm like, wait a minute. I'm hearing a certain voice here.
This is the biggest stretch for me because I feel like in a world where Lex Luthor exists, he would never let that happen. Like he might be the big villain, right? And he doesn't like Superman, but I can't see Lex allowing.
I have been saying this since 2016. Lex Luthor is more
qualified.
Well, not qualified. Yeah. He's preferred. He's a more preferential president than Trump.
So that was kind of a bummer for me because I just like to think of in the DC universe as my favorite comics universe. Like still happens.
I think this is very much playing in on the Watchmen political commentary.
Yeah. To be fair though, I'm pretty sure Obama showed up once or twice before as well. Like before last term.
Probably.
I remember Obama showing up.
I always like DC for that because they have these cities that aren't real, whereas Marvel's very grounded. It takes place in New York and others, and then all of a sudden DC was like, yeah, we're gonna try that, and we're gonna get rid of Star City, we're gonna make it Seattle, and we're gonna start putting in instead of our own presidents, which they had done before, these other characters. So
yeah, I get it. Yeah. I think it's fine here because it's never like they don't name it. It's just there for the political referencing.
Yeah, it's not nearly as big as Putin showing up in the last one,
Yeah.
or in a couple issues before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know what it says. They went to the effort of having Putin and going through the extra, like, regulations to allow that.
Approvals.
Yeah. And like Trump, nah, just imply it, it's fine.
Do you know what? That's the thing, though, because they don't need to. With Putin,
No.
he hasn't got any recognizable speech patterns that you can not show him, and we all go, "Well, that's clearly Putin."
Yeah.
yeah, not that we know of. He might, in his native language.
Oh,
I'm
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
But my point
Yeah.
is, for the audience that they're marketing this at,
Yeah.
with this here, this is all they need, and we all know exactly what they're doing. They don't need to bother.
Yeah. So Batman wakes up. We hear that Wonder Woman's going to speak. Where is it?
The
She's
UN.
speaking. The UN. Yeah. And Batman's like, wait, they're on the way to Mars. I mean, this is kind of over the next couple of pages with him, but they're on the way to Mars. Oh, I need to send a message. So there's this countdown thing where he's sending a message to Mars, and it's got like, how much longer? 7 minutes. How much longer? 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And we also see Firestorm separated. It's Ronnie and Stein waking up, and they're on a ship. And
They've been shanghaied.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually laughed at this because on Legends of Tomorrow, Stein kind of kidnapped Jeffrey or
Jason.
So Batman sent a message, and the rest of the leagues, the Green Lanterns land first, and they go out and they find the checkerboard. And I actually didn't realize this at first, but it becomes cool. The reason why they went out first is because they can breathe, because they've got their shieldings. Because what they do after this is the Green Lanterns make a shield around the entirety of Mars, and then Firestorm comes out and produces atmosphere.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's actually
that's
pretty
so
cool. Yeah.
But so I like when the Lanterns get down there, they find that checkerboard, right? And then they also find the
photo.
picture of Manhattan before. And it's starting to lay those seeds where how exactly it ties into Watchmen now, because now it's our universe's characters finding, crossing over with the Watchmen universe.
And as this is all intercutting between the Green Lantern shields and the atmosphere and all that, and Firestorm kind of reluctantly getting involved, Lex shows up at Superman's, hospital room, if you want to call it that. Yeah. And Lois, of course, is startled. And this is all good. It's a lot of intercutting in this issue, at least at this point of it. And they meet Manhattan. Manhattan shows up quite quickly. They get to his, his structure from Watchmen, and they're like, it's him. And I have to admit, I kind of love how much of a chump he makes Guy look. I'm just going to throw it there.
He makes everyone look like chumps.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
He makes him look a chump more so.
Gardner is the type of guy that's going to be like, who's this naked blue dude? All right, I'm going to go punch him and see what happens. Yeah. And then in Guy fashion, he mucks it up.
Also, I love Mary saying, "Darla, close your eyes."
Close your eyes. And Freddy, where's the line that killed me? Gross. That dude's naked. He's hanging in the wind. Oh man. But yeah, you look at that page, all the characters that are there, and it's just.
I'm just picturing the from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just dude hangs dong.
Do you know what I like about this? Is I like that, even Jean's trying to look into his head, and and John, this is getting confusing, John and John. But Manhattan's like sorry, I was speaking to Ronnie Raymond like 6 minutes from now, and Guy's like, this guy's nuts. And I as much as I'm making fun of Guy, I actually love that he tries to show that, hey, we're prepared for you, and he's like, here's a construct of Darkseid and Doomsday and all these other big villains, and we've done all this.
Anti-Monitor.
Yeah.
And
we have conquered all of this. We're not worried about you. And what I like about that is that we know that Manhattan's about to show them all, not who's boss, because that's not the attitude Manhattan has, but he's about to just wipe the floor with them because he's Manhattan.
Because he's a god.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
Well, I also think it's interesting too that that Guy brings up. It looks like Superboy Prime, right? And I know what Manhattan's saying, but on a second reread, at the bottom of that page on the last panel, where he points to him and goes, "My final vision of Superman," right? And it almost makes me wonder if that has a double meaning, because if the Watchmen was meant to be the real world, and we all know Earth Prime is where Superboy Prime comes from, you know what I mean?
Wait,
are we doing this again?
Prime time, baby. It's prime time.
No, I'm just saying, to Manhattan, there's no reason why Superman should be our Superman that we know
How many
of.
times since we've started this podcast have we gone, maybe it's Superboy Prime?
No. I'm not saying Superboy Prime's involved. I'm saying the version that Guy conjures up is clearly villainous, right?
Yeah.
Because to Manhattan and all of his experience, that's happened is just mankind becoming like dealing with things how it knows how to do, and that's how to destroy. And that's Superboy Prime in a nutshell. And so for him, his final vision of Superman is everything it's destruction.
Do you know what I like about this as well? I like that it's not just that he's a threat, it's that he hurts Superman. Like, that's just kind of what banded everyone together. Because, I mean, even when Alfred's, like, saying it to Bruce early on, he's like, oh, everyone, even Constantine volunteered to, like, go on this mission. Like, everyone's banded together because they hurt Superman. Like, whoever this is, he hurts Superman. And Kara's pissed, they're all pissed. And then eventually Guy punches Manhattan. And
I love his grin afterwards. He's like, wait, is that it? I did it?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. He goes, Christ, I didn't mean to kill him, but he had it coming, right?
And then Manhattan just appears as like, oh, this ring's fascinating. I can't quite understand it. And he just takes it off and like just dismantles it. And it's like you're nothing, guy. It's basically.
Yeah.
It's just a force that can't be. And then the magic user's just like, oh, okay, right, he's not going to be able to deal with us. And I love how Manhattan, because Manhattan probably for the only time in this whole book almost sounds cocky.
Yeah,
for the
magic.
Yeah, it's like magic. Because what was it? Yeah, the scraps of creation, like the random errors in a computer code, discarded and forgotten, left to be picked up and used by those who are also find themselves discarded and forgotten. I'm like, as someone who doesn't like magic, I kind of love this explanation of magic.
Yeah. So I'm thinking those butt cheeks that we saw were Blue
Devils
and Girl Blue Devil.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
because obviously there's others that are here on Mars that we didn't see on the ships. Obviously we saw Red Tornado earlier on this panel. We got Etrigan, the Blue Devils, Fate.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely others. So he basically wipes out all the magic users. I mean, not kills them, but like he beats them easily. He basically.
It feels good to still learn.
Yeah.
When he utilizes magic for the first time. It's a hell of a moment.
Yeah, he's like, I can do this too. Look, I just figured it out. Boom, gone. And this wave blasts them all back. We cut back to Lex and Lois, and Lex is like, "Here, have a gun if it makes you feel safer." Like, I'm like, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying Superman being beat, but this is not about him. This is about because he reveals that he sent her the footage, the JSA,
right? Which
images.
This is classic Lex now of, hey, I want to see Superman beat as much as the next dude, but I still want to live on Earth.
But exactly. I want it, but it's I beat Superman. Other people will beat Superman.
Too. Yeah.
I beat Superman.
So
and if he accessed the Justice Society, right? Where did that come from?
That's a good question. Like, how did he get that stuff? But he's the one who sent you the footage of the heroes that never were. It's proof, Lewis. She's like, proof of what? That there's a force out there undermining not only Superman but all of creation. My evidence points to one of his victims. Have you ever heard of Wally West? That is a big moment for me because, like I say, Wally was the start of all this, right? The start of Rebirth, the start of us like questioning everything that's been going on. Was started with Wally, and it was when he said it, I went, yeah, he's not come up in this book at all. Not.
Yeah. And obviously this sort of thing, Lex doesn't know that Lois knows about Wally again, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people won't because even though a lot of the heroes learned about him again because he came out and he was at Sanctuary and all this stuff, but. It's not like the world knew about Wally West again.
And even if you're not reading Heroes in Crisis, this could just be a reference to where Wally went.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was gone.
Yeah, I think that's mostly how I read it, ignoring Heroes in Crisis. Even though there are references to the last couple of years worth of stories. There's metal references to metal and such. Yeah. The whole of justice, no justice.
I will say it gives me some confidence that the reason why maybe Wally hasn't been mentioned up until this point is because Johns did know what the plan was for what was going on in Heroes in Crisis since he started this. Because that was because when it comes to the big line-wide events and like them moving the whole universe to the next phase and all that, they tend to have like a 2-year like plan of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only concern is that when this started, we should have been like finished just after Heroes in Crisis starts.
Well, yeah, but I mean, things change all the time, though, so I wouldn't worry about that because once they started pushing this back, I'm sure they rejiggered because they knew that this was meant to be a year later in the DCU and everything else would catch up after a year. Everything's had to extend that for another year essentially. since this
No, that's
started.
fair.
So I don't think that's that weird in that sense, but yeah. So that felt like a big deal to me. And back to Mars, everyone's firing on Manhattan. They're all trying. They're all doing their best. Manhattan actually takes a break to show Ronnie some truth about Stein, about how Stein kind of intended for their merging, because he wants to study metahumans. So he's and again here's where Metamorpho definitely showed up, because I noticed this one because it's one of the metahumans that Stein was looking at.
Yep.
That's the whole thing.
So here's the thing: is this the actual truth of going on, or is this one of Manhattan's manipulations, like him moving the?
I'm gonna say it's true based on the backups material.
Well, yeah, it's true for a Doomsday Clock, but the whole Stein picking Ronnie and stuff. Is John's gonna come out and say that's always what it's meant to be, or is this because Manhattan moved the?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because I don't think
Lantern.
Manhattan intentionally orchestrated this, but is it a result of the butterfly effect from the original thing? Sure.
Possibly. I can see it being either way, though. Honestly, this could be just a classic, John's retcon of, oh, you didn't know this.
Right. Well, it makes Stein come off sinister, because just the way that he talks about him, I groomed him, and it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see just tons of heroes just blasted him. Supergirl's got the heat vision. We got Star Blast from Stargirl, Green Lanterns. They're all just piling on him, and eventually, he does. Captain Atom shows up, and it's funny because I think we've joked in the past, is Captain Atom the ultimate weapon against Manhattan?
Yeah, we joked about it specifically because when we had that that miniseries that was not too long before the start of this book was.
Yeah, the Rise and Fall of Captain Atom.
Yeah.
It was actually the Fall and Rise of Captain Atom.
Whatever.
I'm just saying, I remember that because it was weird that it was the opposite way around. So even Manhattan does actually look concerned. We see this, the big explosion, and then there's peace, just sort of calmness, and then we see in the next page that Manhattan just rematerializes. He just comes back. All the heroes are recuperating, and Manhattan just gets back up, and it's what were you trying to cover? And we have that panel where we see Supergirl, Animal Man, Captain Atom, and I think that's Steel in the bottom corner of the frame. And we see the same panel again as the blue light hits them. Is it just me, or does this seem like Manhattan just killed 97% of the heroes?
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Which
again,
I'm not mad about, because I know this is going to be fixed by the end, because there's no way we're we're killing all these characters.
No,
I mean, just look at the final panel of the book. They're all just lying there.
They are, yeah.
Which it makes it into a crisis, though. Because now the only people you have protecting Earth, are going to be the Trinity, and they're all two-thirds of them are laid up.
I mean, arguably, you could say it was always a crisis, because we figured at the end of it was going to rewrite reality in some way, which is.
What do I mean by a crisis? I mean the the stakes there for the heroes. I'm sure this mirrors something in Crisis on Infinite Earths. We all know how Johns loves that story. So, yeah, it definitely is there. We're Connor asking if it was a crisis. I feel like that moment right there.
As it gets.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I do think it's interesting that we're left with the Trinity. That is just the core three heroes of the DCU. And it's funny because the difference between this and the deaths and Heroes in Crisis that made us all go, oh, I mean, I'm sure this will be fixed by the end, but it's weird. It's because this had a dramatic point in the story where it was they all go after Manhattan, and Manhattan shows how powerful he is by just wiping them all like that.
With a blink.
Yeah, snap of his fingers, essentially. Not to compare it to Thanos. But
no, that's a pretty good comparison.
But he just wipes them all out like it's nothing, and it comes back again to the final fight with Superman can't be physical. It has to be Superman. It has to be an ideological battle, essentially.
Yeah.
And also, we saw that radiation does affect Manhattan, because when Firestorm attacked him before he pulled him to the past, we saw that. Yeah, it did something to him. So here, and even Captain Atom did a little bit there. So he does have a weakness, it seems. But
I don't think that's going to be how. I don't think it's going to be. We'll dump him with radiation, and that's how the heroes are going to win. I don't think that's going to be it at all.
But for
No.
a being that feels himself invulnerable to see now that he is actually vulnerable, all while questioning if that last vision of Superman is the end of everything, it's going to put him in a different head state.
It's a nice thing, you know, the idea that he was born through radiation, right?
Yeah.
You know, that accident. So now it's okay. No, that can still affect him.
Yeah.
A nice idea to that.
I think the dramatic point here works, and the reason why, like I don't think anyone's going to be upset about what's happened to all the characters, because you get this feeling that ultimately this is building up to something that's going to rewrite the universe. Like, we're not losing these characters. That's not how this is working. But
not all of these, no.
No, and the reason why I'm sort of like sticking on this point though is I feel like people are naturally going to say, why is this better or different than what Heroes in Crisis did with Wally and Roy and stuff like that. They died off panel, and it's like they actually could stay dead because it is like it's limited enough in numbers to a point. I still don't believe they are staying dead.
I would also say that was issue 1 of a story, right?
Yeah, this was this is
issue 9.
This is the start of Act 3.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you break it down into that, this is the start of Act 3. So,
yeah. We've built up to this.
I just did some Googling to find out who that other character was in the Doom Patrol panel, because it was really bugging me. That was the only one we couldn't figure out.
Is it Caveman?
No, Flex Mentallo.
Okay.
Part of the Grant Morrison run, apparently. Yeah, he created it.
Yeah, I've heard of Flex Mentallo.
Yeah, I've heard that name too.
But that I did. It was from the Morrison version of the team.
I should do.
So
Yeah, so Wonder Woman tries to make a speech about everyone banding together and not, using violence. And the cliffhanger at the end, outside of the fact that Manhattan's killed like most of the heroes, is that Giganta and Black Adam show up, and they're like, "Hey,
Creeper,
all the heroes are gone, so we're making a move."
Finally, Black Adam's shit is paying off.
Yeah,
well, this is like 20 years in the making from
all his JSA stuff.
Yeah, because he wasn't allowed to leave Kahndaq, and here he is at the
UN
building in New York. Also, it wasn't lost on me. Like, Black Adam's not traditionally a Superman villain. He has a dark version of Superman, and I feel like the other two are. You have one, Creeper's kind of a dark version of Batman, right? And then you have Giganta.
Wonder Woman. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder actually if like is someone just playing Superman against Manhattan in the hopes that it will end up in a fight because they know that fight will just end badly. It won't work.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out about Ozymandias, because now he's been missing for a while. We know that tumor's not actually there.
Yeah, it's a funny thing though, because I feel like since issue 1, the constant thing we keep coming back to is Ozymandias is playing things behind the curtain, because that's the obvious thing to guess every time, right?
But what does he benefit from this? Because if this is just, is it the destruction of Manhattan? Is it the destruction of everything else? Because if he can't have his world, no one can have theirs.
We've never had any indication that he would think that way, that he'd be that petty.
He's never been that destructive for the sake of it.
No, because everything for him is about the greater good.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to think. Who benefits from this?
I mean, is he hoping that Manhattan will result in him basically resetting his world so that things will be changed from Watchmen and everything will be nicer and better or something?
I wonder if he's just trying to destroy him. Like the idea of as a greater good, he can't be left out there.
Right.
Because who knows what the hell he'll do.
Look at all the chaos he can create.
Yeah.
Him just moving a lantern destroyed this entire world.
And it's almost Ozymandias being the ultimate hero in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I see, and that's what I keep getting hung up on, is this whole who benefits argument.
Yeah.
So
I love the quote in this. Obviously all the issues end with a quote.
Yeah.
This one is perfect for DC. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for crisis.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. I think if it's Ozymandias just playing them against each other, then there has to be some sort of greater good he has in mind. I don't think it's for revenge. I don't think it's out of any kind of traditional evil motive. But his last plan didn't work ultimately, because the point at the end of Watchmen was that it wasn't right. What he did was morally still wrong, so it couldn't just be left to stand. That's why Rorschach.
I can see it here. If he's pitting Superman against Manhattan, and it's the idea that he's essentially sacrificing Superman, maybe in his plan. to get what he wants is that's the morally grey for sure.
No, but what I'm saying what I'm saying is though, is he can't like just get his way. There has to, like it can't just be that his plan is perfect this time versus Watchmen, where there was this kink in it, right? There has to be a flaw. There has to be something that he learns or doesn't work out the way he wanted to in the first place. If his plan just goes accordingly to plan and it's a success, and that's how Doomsday Clock ends, that won't work as a story because it's just. Right. That's it. It's just played out exactly as he thought it would the whole time.
You just looked at
that's unsatisfying.
Half of Watchmen was him trying to get Manhattan off the board so he could do what he needed to do to unify.
Yeah.
Right? And now he's trying to keep Manhattan on the board. Right? If this is all his plan. Because this is all focused on Manhattan. And I think he's trying to make him... My take on it is he's trying to make Manhattan realize his power. Like, you are a god. You have the power to create and to destroy. Which are you going to choose? Because it also makes me go back to think of the quote from the guy that helped create the bomb, where he called himself,
Oppenheimer. Now I'm become death.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing. I would like that idea that if his plan was for Manhattan to basically become self-aware of how powerful he is, right, in a moral sense, where he's like if there was any hint that he had learned from what he'd done in Watchmen, that he wanted Manhattan to realize his own power and how destructive that could be and what he could do so that he would make the right choices going forward, I'd actually kind of like that as a development. But I don't know if there's been any indication up until this point that Ozymandias actually did learn anything like that after Watchmen.
We haven't seen Mime and Marionette and how they play into this. Mm-hmm. They've been central figures. Ozymandias has been missing with his Lynx cat. The last time we saw them, they located them. Also, you have Saturn Girl and Johnny Thunder, and that story that's still unresolved. And how do they all fit in?
I mean, this moment is in many ways it's a bit earlier than it was in Watchmen, but this is kind of the equivalent of the nuke going off in New York, I'd say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it just makes me wonder if he was introduced to magic, and if that's going to be with Johnny Thunder, if whatever happens there. Because his living lightning bolt is kind of like Mxyzptlk-ish, right? He's an imaginary...
Yeah, the genie.
Yeah, he comes from the land of imagination, where everything's possible.
I mean,
so I wonder how that plays in.
Does Manhattan get to this point where he realizes that he has hurt this world by affecting it? And
I think, the very thing we're talking about is Ozymandias trying to make him realize something. Going back to the first page again, we said... he looks like he feels concern.
Yeah.
And that's the first time in a long, long time that Manhattan has shown any emotion. Not just, concern or anything like that, just emotion at all.
And when does that actually happen? Because he is existing at multiple points in time. Is this before the heroes get there? Is this after they're all gone? And that's why he's...
Yeah, that's a fair question. I'm inclined to say before, but...
Right.
I mean...
Because there's no, if there's nothing around the planet, right, which would make sense because there's no lanterns left to maintain that. So it's one of these things where it could happen before or after. And I feel like him having the realization and this really wasn't a sacrifice on the hero's part, but with Pharaoh Lad, that's his ring. He sacrificed himself, and it's this solid moment in time. Him having that realization works, I think, better for the story afterwards than before the heroes get there.
Okay. Well, yeah. We could say it could go either way with Manhattan.
It's kind of both, though, because Manhattan, all those sort of points in the original Watchmen, the points that he's had here, the idea is that he's on Mars looking at the thing, he's watching the watch fall, he's all these things are always happening for him.
Happening at once to him, yeah.
So before and after is almost irrelevant in a weird way because for him it is both.
Right.
So
I think the bit Matt's getting at though is the bit at the end where it's darkness, right? When he's looking into the future, and he's going back and he's got the latest we see him say is May 2030. When is this for him? Because obviously it has to be before the next 7 days or whatever it is when the event with Superman's happening. So all we know is it's before that.
Right.
So it's even though you're saying everything's happening at once for him. This is still before that.
So what if there's nothing?
That's the point, though, right? Everything's happening at once, but then all of a sudden there's a cut off, right? Because before there was all the way up to the year 3000 something, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, there's a point where everything stops.
Yes. Okay. So the point where he is standing there with the ring, and then and more accurate, the point where the ring is not there.
Yeah.
There is a moment where he is looking at his hand.
Right.
He experiences that at all times, but that is still a defined time point, right?
Mhm.
That still happens at some point, and I guess the moment is that action. Does that happen before or after the fight with the heroes?
Oh, before that happens, as soon as he moves the lantern.
Okay. There you go then.
So
that's the answer to the question.
He moves the lantern, and then he experiences that moment again, standing on Mars with the ring in his hand, and it goes. That's when it happens.
So the other thing was, as you guys were talking, I just had a thought. And
yes,
what if the reason that there's nothing after this, because Superman doesn't really destroy him, he decides to change things, so he can't see anything in this version as it is now because he's going back and fixing the things that he messed up because of his discussion with Superman. Superman telling him, "You have all this power. Look at all the havoc you've created." And so Manhattan's like, "You're right," and that's why it's the end of this as he knows it. And then maybe he blinks himself out of existence. Could he do that? You know, and that's why he can't see anything. He just has no understanding of it right now.
Or in his case, more non-existence rather than death.
So, man, there's so much to play, and like this book, I hate that there's these delays, but look how much it gives us.
Every issue is it's a pinnacle of the art form in terms of the single issues, right? That they can fit so much into each issue, have each issue be, no, this is what this issue is, yet still feed into a larger story.
Yeah, this one was like 29, 30 pages, because I realised I was like, reading all this stuff in Mars, and I realised I was already at like page 24 at one point, because they're numbered at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have all been like that. I mean, that's why the extra dollar.
But Pete's just saying he wasn't realizing.
Well, no, they've not all been the same length though. Some of them have been a few pages shorter than this.
Oh, have they?
Right.
Yeah, so some have only been like 27, 28. This one was more like 30. There was a few.
Oh,
extra.
yeah.
And I feel like he added those extra, who's on the team, because there's no dialogue there. They're just, they're show pages.
He's like, yeah, can I have a few more pages of roll call, please? Just let me have a few more.
Yeah. There's less back matter in this one, though. Obviously, there's just the one file.
Well, that'll be how they justify not the price going up again. Is that they've just taken away some back matter?
They're not printing any extra, are they?
Yeah. No, I actually kind of agree that I do think, because they know this is set in the future in the DCU right now, I do think, well, not because the delays or not, I do think there's a lot of discussion about, okay, you're drawing all these characters, where are they going to be when Doomsday Clock ends?
Right.
Yeah.
Or more, the Doomsday Clock begins, rather, is maybe the better question.
Yeah.
Because that's where we have to get to.
If all this issue did was reassure me that Dick Grayson's coming back as Nightwing,
it's already a perfect issue.
Yes. It's already a perfect issue. Like, and as much as I do enjoy the Murphy design of the Batgirl costume, if she's going back to her roots, I'm okay with that too.
The black and yellow's better. It just does.
And Donna and her red and yellow, that's a change in that character from what we've seen in Titans.
Yeah,
so
I actually quite like her black outfit, but the red one is what they're using for the TV show, so maybe that's why they're wanting to switch.
That could be too.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a
it's Frank's art again.
We've gone.
I know.
50 minutes and not even spoke about his art yet. It's because it's just that phenomenal. Every panel is exquisite.
It's worth the wait. Every time.
This issue represents a climactic point. Ever since Rebirth issue 1, where we talked about, okay, they're going up against Manhattan. This is how powerful he is. Superman can't beat him in a fist fight. This issue is kind of the proof of that. This is the issue where hundreds of heroes go towards him and they get decimated in the blink of an eye.
Well,
it's this dramatic beat that had to play out, but it's no less satisfying, even though we all kind of thought it was coming. It was exciting. It was exciting seeing them go towards him. They're trying to figure him out. They're trying to figure out. He's talking in weird riddles almost, because he's talking in different time, lines and whatnot. Them trying to understand him, Jean trying to understand him, Guy in his own dumb way trying to understand him, like all of that stuff, and then him just being like, no, like that.
Guys prove that no matter how hard you hit him, he's not going to go down. If you're going to take
how is Guy proof of that? There's at least half of the people there could punch harder than Guy.
Because that's Guy's thing. Guy is the the punch first guy, and he's a pretty adept Green Lantern.
Supergirl's 10 feet away. Have her punch him, and then that'll prove it.
Because there's a reason why Johns had him do this, and it's not because Johns doesn't like Guy Gardner. You know, he took the Voldarian BS from Guy Gardner and made him a Green Lantern again. You know, that was Johns' doing. So the fact that he picked him, just shows like.
I just thought of an upside to all this. Technically, Red Hood just died.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's celebrate.
Yeah, so. But also, so did Supergirl and Batgirl, Pete. So.
Oh yeah, that's the upsetting part. I admit.
But silver linings.
Yeah.
Silver linings.
Snyder be damned, and that's Zack Snyder.
Yes.
Superman's not a punch first character, especially now.
Oh yeah.
This
No.
older version.
This is not. We've been over this.
So. However angry he's gonna show up and be, it's all kind of. I don't want to say it's a swerve because it's really not. I don't think that Superman's going to cause the death of Manhattan, because what caused the death of Manhattan's got to be something, death of his philosophical
I can see Superman
beliefs.
causing it in the sense that he inspires him not to be like this.
Oh yeah,
and Manhattan, gives up his life.
That's not.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not killing him though.
Yeah. But it would cause him to die.
Yeah, I feel like Superman will defeat Manhattan, and that's where this goes. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to kill him, or even talk him out of.
Even the word defeat may not be right. Like at the end of this, if Manhattan agrees with them and it's like a positive change, is it a defeat, or is it just no? He inspired a person to do the right thing.
I'd say it's not a defeat, but it is a victory.
Yeah,
sure. Not all victories have losers.
Right.
Yeah. But oh my god, the art! This is one of the only books ever I'm like, I want the absolute edition just for the size of that art.
And it feels good to see Frank drawing the Shazam family again. Well, yeah, but like his Green Lanterns look cool, like everything, but it just feels right because he helped create this new version of the family.
Yeah, but even Bat Family, Super Family, like all these characters getting the Frank treatment this issue. It's great.
It is. It really is.
So
ratings?
Yeah, we're rating it now. So it's almost been an hour. I think it's time to rate the damn book. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a 9. It's really good. I just got a lot to chew on, but the emotion parts of it didn't hit me like the last issue. So
okay, Connor.
But it's still really strong.
Nah, screw it. I'm going with the 10. It hit.
I will never understand you.
Every panelist, I loved it.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 10 as well. This was fantastic. This is the best issue.
Wow.
This is the best issue of the book so far.
I still like the last one a little bit more. And that might just be my Superman bias.
It probably is,
because that was Superman's issue.
Yeah,
but I love the last issue as well. But I think I do prefer this one.
This was phenomenal. This is there's a reason why we keep caring about Doomsday Clock, and we keep waiting for all these delays. It doesn't matter.
Every time there's all these delays, I go, oh, it's gonna hurt the book. Because there are books where it gets delayed, and I'm like, I lose interest. I come back to it, I'm like, what's going on? I don't care anymore. And then I think, is this the issue that happens every time there's these delays? It's been 3 months since the last issue, and then I open this, and it's like I read the last issue yesterday, and I haven't even I read it the once, 3 months ago, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic, and if it fixes this Wally West debacle and everything else,
and I feel it's going to. I feel like Johns wouldn't do that to Wally.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like there's a plan in place, even if it's hard. It's easy not to trust them. It's easy not to be skeptical about Didio and changing things. And
it's all right. Johns is Manhattan. There's a plan. He can see it. We just don't know what it is. It's all confusing to us, right?
This is also like nothing is restoring hope every time it comes out like Doomsday Clock is. This is the hope restoring book, in a way, and hopefully literally by the end of it.
Even when this issue ends with everyone dying, we're like, no, there's hope.
Yeah, because
that's hope in a nutshell.
Because we see how it's working in the overall story, where this is the lowest point. This is the reason this exists, because the story's going to play out and the ultimate victory is going to happen in some way. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe they'll cancel half the DC books and all these characters are really dead, and then we'll just have like.
It really is a Thanos snap. I was gonna say he technically killed off Barry on Mars, so therefore it is a crisis.
Bye.